Hi guys, welcome to Cinema Express. Today I'm chatting with Taapsee, Tahir and director Aakash Bhatia about Loop Lapeta. It's a crazy berserk head trip dropping on Netflix on the 4th of February. Hi guys, welcome to the show. And I'll start with this, where anyone who starts out as a film lover or a cinephile, like one of the early films you're told to watch is Run Lola Run. And it's an explosion of ideas and lot of creativity. I want to know, as artists and storytellers, what you guys responded to the most or got excited by this idea of a loop story, and both cinematically and what it says about, let's say, life or choices and things like that.
I am not a person who wanted to pursue cinema in any way. So I did not really have an inclination towards watching content, especially outside India content. मतलब हमारे लिए तो वो होता था जो टीवी पे आ रहा देख लो type. So hence I got to watch this film after I got Loop Lapeta offered, and I heard the script and I said yes, and I was like, "Achha, now I need to just go back and see what exactly are we trying to attempt or trying to adapt." So that's when I saw it, and what clicked instantly with me, not actually after watching the film because I had heard the script before that. What clicked me was something that's not really there in the original, and that is Indianization of this concept of loop. That is what stuck out the most, and was that wow moment for me when I heard the script.
Tahir, you had said?
I had watched it in college, and I really loved it for how different it was. It sort of blew me away, and I was curious because I'd heard about it, but and I thought it would be strange to watch the same story told to you thrice. But with every successive story, it sort of sucks you in more to want to know what's going to happen and are they going to manage to pull it off or not. And I remember the very first meeting I had about Loop. I'd met the producers at a coffee shop. It was like the weekend Chichore had released, and they said, "Hey, we want to meet you." And I remember having they're like, "Okay, we'd like to cast you," and it's the remake. And I was like, "Oh man, not a remake." And then I was like the coffee cup, and I was like, "Okay, which one?" And they said, "Run Lola Run." And the coffee just like sort of stopped there because when you hear that, it's just like edge and style and newness are things that come in it. And what I was excited about is how we were going to tell it to an Indian audience, because it's talking about like quantum physics and how do you break that down into an entertainment. Entertainment is so important in our cinema. And I think that's where Aakash and his team come in, because the way they've broken it down and made it funny and still relatable is something I really enjoyed on paper. And of course, how different Satya is from anything I've done before. And the icing on the cake for all of this was that Taapsee was involved in it.
I was a cherry. I was a cherry on the cake.
Yes, with today's lipstick, she's the cherry.
I was cherry on the cake.
Super. Aakash, tell me, how long have you been working on this, and what had been the journey of, like we said, that you not just Indianize it, but also broaden the story, made it simpler for people. There are much more quirk and funnier characters. How long has this process been to make it much more your own thing? And
yeah, like you said, much more of our own thing. I think that was the biggest sort of thing that one should do and one has to do when you're taking a story already been told and told so well in so many years ago, right? It's a classic. So our thing was that we are making a fresh film, an adaptation of this original concept. The concept in itself is so beautiful, and just to sort of bring it home, make it accessible for an Indian audience that watches these kind of films or doesn't watch these kind of films. That was the challenge that we set out for ourselves, while not going into the mode of copy pasting a film. We were very we were very aware that we wanted to tell it in an original way, tell it, package and treat it in an original way, make it our own. But at the heart of it, we also wanted the audience to attach themselves to the characters that are there, and make these characters whole, Satya and Savi, and be with them on their journey. And their journey obviously can be a roller coaster ride because of the nature of the journey, right? And there are moments that make you laugh, and there are moments that suddenly make you stop laughing, and you are made to cry or made to feel an emotion that you weren't feeling previously. And that was what was very important for us, to take a emotional journey, make an emotional journey out of this thing, and the emotions can be far and wide. And obviously, humor is the sort of backbone of some of the bits that we've tried to do. Visual treatment is something that we've led with. Yeah, and that is what makes it. That's the effort that's gone into making it our own Loop Lapeta, inspired by the beautiful Run Lola Run.
Taapsee, your characters love being in motion, and there are two crazy sequences I want to discuss. Firstly, there's a lovely blocking of you running through cars and scooties in the middle of a busy road, and we see it thrice. How scary! You have done chase sequences before, you've done action before, but how was that experience of shooting that? And I think you guys had to do it over and over again.
Yeah, I had to do it again and again, and also with a different emotion or running style actually, because every loop had to be different. It can't be just cut, copy, paste. So for that reason, first of all, running on the pavement or road is not really fun, like, because it is not healthy for your legs to do that. And I was doing that for almost 2 weeks in Goa. And thankfully, I was trained before this because of my previous film. So I did have a know-how of the running stance and how do you sprint. But still doing that on that kind of surface was not very good for the legs. So which I started feeling towards the end of the 2 weeks that I was running, that, that now it really needs some help. But then at that point, it's not really scary when you're doing it, because I enjoy running generally. So it was kind of fun to like navigate it. Just I used to recall my childhood times, when you're running around in the roads and lanes of around your house while you're playing with the kids around. So that kind of a deja vu of sorts of jumping over the potholes and the speed breakers and maneuvering the bikes and all of that. And then there is one sequence where actually I have to cross 2 roads and then bump into a car and then roll on the bonnet and fall down.
Yes.
And that's a single shot, and that almost felt like, I don't know, I think he's going to take an entire day doing that, because it looked like a crazy coordination that is required for that. And the camera was changing hands. So it was like in between because the whole sequence, the camera was going inside the car and coming out. So it was not like really one person who could do the whole thing. So, but then, I had to manage first not really getting hit, but there were professionals obviously who were there on the vehicles around. And then I had to run through and bump into actually manage my speed, or they had to manage with my speed, the ones who were handling the camera, and then bump into the car and just make sure that I don't go out of frame when I'm rolling on the bonnet and then falling down. And then Aakash is like, I was like, abhi cut bol de. And then he's still going on. So now I have to like keep going on there in pain, and then don't know if I have to get up. I don't know where the camera is, because by that time you're disoriented enough to not realize ke abhi kis side se camera kidhar se hai. So actually once in one of the takes I got up before it was cut, and I was like, shit, abhi dobara to nahi karna padega is wajah se.
Hashtag has their own stunts.
Yeah, I actually did. But it was fun eventually when I could execute it. But when he told me that I'll have to do all this, everyone looked at my face as if, "Abhi bolegi, ab main ye nahi karna hai." They did have a body double for this, which thankfully we used only for the blocking part, and then I did the take. But yeah, it was quite for me also. It was like, I'm not sure if I can execute it seamlessly. It will be. It will be quite a thing for me to do.
Right.
And thankfully it happened. And it's there in the film also. Didn't get edited out.
The other scene is very different. I want Tahir to join me or join Taapsee on this. This is the first time when the first loop has happened and the couple is back in the room. And they get chatting, and it's more wistful, it's more emotional. Savi has the knowledge of having gone through this one. Satya doesn't. And they discuss life. They discuss. You eventually break down the Satya one and Savitri's story. It's I think the first very emotional moment that I think people will cling to. Tell us about just the rhythm of that shot. I think it begins with the bed. Then she goes to make tea. You're there at the dining table. I love the movement of the shot. I love the rhythm of it. The rest of the film is so hectic that you cling to this beautifully. Tell us, both of you, shooting that sequence.
Yeah, I think you framed that question really well in terms of rhythm. And for me, that's what I did even on paper. You can read it on paper. where in the middle of all this chaos, this is the string that sort of ties it all together about what their relationship is, what is it, the overarch of what they're going through. Performing it was also exactly the same way. You felt that ease of pace because everything was very kinetic. It was even on the climax was a set in Bombay. It was very outdoor. All the Goa stuff was outdoors, and this was very controlled in this beautiful Goan Portuguese bungalow. And it was really, I think, to understand a character who has an outburst, an erratic outburst like Satya does in Crisis, it is important to know where they are coming from. And that is his point zero. Like where Satya's at his calmest, he's in his natural habitat, for lack of a better word. And that's when he's relaxed. He's, he's romanticizing the woman he loves. He thinks he's being very cool. And it's only when you see that, it's when you see the light that the darkness makes sense. The shadow will make sense. And that's what that scene was for me, performance-wise. You're on mute. I've left you speechless after my answer.
Yes. Shilajit, muted. Still mute. Still mute.
He's doing this on purpose, I'm telling you. This is like a loop thing.
No, it's the host doing this to me, but no issue.
Host.
Host.
Come on, Pratik.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes, sorry.
Taapsee, your side of shooting this scene, and I also want you to weigh in on this. It's lovely to see modern Hindi films. They capture the rhythm of romances very much more realistically now than earlier. Earlier, heroes and heroines were expressing themselves very differently. That was aspirational, but you didn't connect with. Now, when you see a couple hanging out, slacking out in the dining table, you just connect with it much more naturally and really. So yeah, your side of the story.
Yeah, that's because the couple, the love it has changed over a period of time. The way people express themselves has changed over time. Men and women have changed a little over time. So hence the portrayal needs to change. So this one, for me, as I told you, this was the big reason for me to say wow to the script. That particular sequence between Satya and Savi and the story that is being told and how Savi and audience along with her get to know about the core of the film. For me, that particular sequence extended, broken and extended in parts is actually the core of the film for me. And then everything else is a layer on top of it, and the topmost layer being where she actually goes for the run. So hence that particular sequence for me, I treated like the heart of the film, where if this is set. If people understood this, they'll understand their chemistry. They'll understand the heart of the film. They'll understand the concept of the film and why it's whatever is happening is happening. So that became for me the backbone of the film.
My loop question. I have to ask you guys, what has been the most loopiest moment that you guys can think of your life or career? Like, for example, when I came to Bombay and I was trying to find a house and I'd never get it, although I was ready to pay and I had a roommate and there was no reason not to, but it just wasn't working out and I felt very loopy in my head. Could you guys think of, a moment or like a phase from your life where you guys felt very loopy about things?
I definitely can. It's not to do with this film, but the concept of the loop, definitely. Like the first time I ever came to Bombay was to IIT's Mood Indigo to perform a stage play, and they put us in this one of their hostels, which is what Mood Indigo does. And I remember it was, I think, one of their most dilapidated looking hostels, and we were just like, wow, where have we come? And we performed in that society and as a theater society, and we lost really badly. And it was, I think, one of the places where I decided that acting means so much and that this is something that I would want to do. And then years later, I was cast in a film where we were playing hostel boys from IIT from Bombay in Chichore, and Hostel 4 is where we were put up in college like all those years ago. And so it was just like life coming a full circle, and it felt like a loop at that point of like shit, this is where I was meant to be.
Right. On that note, I met an IIT alum very recently, and he had responded very strongly to Derek emotionally. He said that I had a senior like this, and it was lovely to hear him talk. Like it's been a while to that film, but
awesome.
So
that's awesome. I'm an honorary IITian now.
And I've been like honorably thrown out of, but never qualified to get into it. How much ever I wanted to. I mean, for me, the only loopy feeling apart from that house hunting, which happens to everyone who comes.
Yeah, that's a very Bombay story. Everyone has been through a house hunting story.
Yeah. So other than that, I think the last 2 years have been on loop. It feels like whenever you're trying to get back to work, there's a lockdown, the number of cases rise, and then there's a lockdown. Then you come back, and then you're trying to get back into groove, and then there's another lockdown. So I'm hoping this third time we're going to get lucky, and there won't be any lockdown, and we'll be out of this COVID loop.
Right. Right. Akash, for you, we know very little about your journey. So yeah, Akash, for
But
you.
I mean, my journey is whatever. But coming to Tahir, there is a beautiful loop between us as well. You know, we're both from Delhi University, and he was much more my senior by a few years. And I remember meeting Tahir for the first time when I was doing theatre, and he was working at that point. Remember Tahir when he used to work for that news channel?
Yeah. I was at a media
Yeah, he was at a
production
media house,
company.
and he'd come to interview me for something over there. You know, and we were like, okay, the Tahir Raj Bhasin is coming to interview us, because it was a little bit of like a street cred thing that his media company came and interviewed us, and he was the one representing it. So that, and coming many years later, meeting him, talking to him about this film has been like this larger arc that sort of fulfilled itself, and that was quite, and never imagined that would be the case, where we would both land up actually collaborating with each other. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that could be a fun loop to think of.
Superb. Okay, last question. Taapsee, tell me this: when you're working on a film that's so technically designed and that's so cinematically driven, almost every shot has something funky or tricky going on with that. How does that affect your approach to performance, as opposed to say like a dry art film where the director has left the camera and it's all static and you're doing it in a flow? Like here, I am sure that every shot came with an instruction or added instruction and like a slight heightening maybe.
Yeah, because the camera was a character in the film, and we had to how you when there are actors, number of actors in a particular frame, you all are aware of each other, and you give each other that space. Okay, this character this character is supposed to do this, so I'm going to do this. You react to the other character. So the camera was also a character. So we had to make space for it. Let's just say that.
Right.
And that's very well spotted again on your part, because that it's not a conversation anyone had. It's something that I figured out within 4 or 5 days of being on set, that was the template of working. Because I do come from the background where the projects have been on. You get on set, you are given a free hand of block however you want. And then the DOP watches you, then they light it, and then the camera, the shot breakdown happens. But here, the technicals were done beforehand, and you had to fit your acting into that template. When I see it visually, I understand why that was the need. It's very hard to spontaneously create the kind of visuals that Aakash has managed to do without the kind of technicals that went into it. And I also realized that the great thing about having a certain comfort level with your craft is how you can adapt it to different working styles, which is something that I learn with every project that I go on.
Right. Great. Thank you so much, guys. Had a lovely chat. All the best for Looop Lapeta.